They've had a long life together. Isham Reavis is 95, his wife Bisia 10 years younger, and in early 2007 they would celebrate 62 years of marriage. And stories? Believe me, they've got some stories.
But not a normal life, what I would say. by all standards, what you could call normal, wasn't normal.
Like a lot of couples, they have old photos and mementos, but these tell a story that at times even they've had a tough time believing. The note written by an escaped American POW, the forged identification papers, and the medals. On the right is his Silver Star for gallantry in combat. The other two, those are hers, awarded by the Polish government to a resistance fighter who was born in a castle. You see, Bisia, that's the Polish equivalent of Betsy, was, and technically still is, a countess.
Elżbieta Maria Karolina Teresa Szczecina, Countess Krasicka. Oh, here is me.
Her family is featured prominently in a book on Polish aristocracy. Growing up in the 1920s and 30s, life for the little countess was quite good. Governesses, private teachers, language lessons, a hunting lodge, forests, and of course the house. A 16th century castle overlooking the San River in southeastern Poland.
It was beautiful. It was really amazingly beautiful.
And of course you had groundskeepers and things like
gardeners
that.
And assistant gardeners and stablemen.
But the life of the Countess, and for all of Poland, changed in 1939. Just before Bisia's 18th birthday, Hitler's army invaded Poland, defeated its army, and occupied the country. A Polish government in exile was set up in London, and the Polish resistance began to organize in secret. Bisia's father helped people escape and move about by giving them documents saying they were on his land to do business. And one night in the forest, Bisia, too, joined the resistance, taking an oath she remembers to this day.
I will maintain total military secrecy, no matter who may fail me, so help me God. Then the man who swore me in said, now you are member of the Polish Home Army. Your duty is to fight. Your only compensation will be Poland's freedom. Every treason punishable by death.
German forces were all around, but as a member of a prominent local family, Bisia was able to move about the area.
I was mostly a reconnaissance person. I transported ammunition and guns.
On one mission, she was driving a wagon load of weapons hidden under straw. Sometimes the roads were clear, but not this time.
And there are 3 Germans with the automatic, and Halt, Fräulein.
She carried under her coat her identification card and a loaded gun. She decided to try to talk rather than shoot her way out of this, and handed over her papers with a smile.
Then one goes around, pokes his fingers in the straw, and asks me, "Und was haben Sie da unter? What do you have underneath?" And I, with laughter, said, "Gewiss ein Maschinengewehr, surely a machine gun." So we began to laugh. And
the soldiers looked no further. Instead, they gave the young lady a drink of schnapps from their canteen, shared a cigarette, and sent her, and unknowingly her shipment of guns, on their way.
It was scary, but you were young, therefore it was simpler, maybe. I don't know if I would do it now.
Eventually, the Germans would be driven from Poland by the advancing Soviet forces. But the resistance fighters soon found that while they had the same enemy, the Russians did not consider them friends.
Hands up, throw your guns, and let us as prisoners.
They gave them a choice: join the Red Army or remain a prisoner. Bisia wanted neither, and used her wits and her language skills again to avoid capture in Soviet-occupied Poland. And this is where Isham comes into the story. He, too, was a survivor, an American Army lieutenant who'd escaped from a German POW camp. He was almost shot, almost froze to death. But when he finally hooked up with the Russian allies, he was safe. While waiting for transportation back to the American forces, he was in a club in the Polish city of Lublin, sitting with some Polish girls, who happened to be there to meet their friend, the Countess.
When Bisia walked in there, that was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. And with the arrogance of being a lieutenant, they're pretty arrogant people, I told her I was going to marry her.
Now, believe it or not, 10 days afterwards we were married.
And 10 days after that, Isham had to leave and couldn't take her with him. But he left her with a note to the American authorities saying he would send for her as soon as he could, and asking them to do everything they could to facilitate that. He gave his mother's address in St. Louis. But it was up to Bisia to get to the Americans, to get out of Soviet-occupied territory. And so one night, carrying Isham's note and a forged document identifying her as a Belgian refugee, she made her move.
We decided that the best way is to do it on the boxcar to the border. Climb on the top of a boxcar, flat on the stomach. Not a good ride, don't advocate that.
It took time, but she did make her way to the Americans and showed them the note, and they did help the officer's wife. Now with legal identification, she headed for America and St. Louis. It had been a year since she had seen the husband she had barely known in the first place. They weren't even sure they would recognize each other.
He met me, and we recognized each other. Luckily. Luckily. Yeah. But it was strange.
But you didn't really know if you were going to see her again when you left. How did you know if she was even going to make it?
You don't. You just go. You just do.
There were not many happy endings in Poland during World War II. The war raged back and forth across the country. It was a place of death and destruction and sorrow. But many people, like the Countess who had lived in the castle, and the American GI who had escaped from the prison camp, figured out how to survive day by day. And one day, with the war nearly over, their paths crossed, and in an instant, they made a decision that would define the rest of their lives.
And then as you grow older again, you think, oh my God. But she was young too, see?
You know, what a strange life.
Worked out fine, I think.
It worked out great.
Cheers.
Cheers.